Probably seems weird to film an intro from the side of a main road next to a holiday park, but I'm just in the village of Llangynog. But the reason I'm filming from here rather than in the village itself is because I think you get a better view of where I'm about to go from a little bit removed from it, because the village is at the very foot of what's called the Berwyn Pass, which is a hill I've cycled before, but never in this direction. Absolutely marvellous hill. I'm not in Snowdonia, but you wouldn't really believe it from looking, would you? So the Berwyn Pass is down here, and it's about 6 km at 6%. So I'm hoping it'll be a good steady effort. It's a terrible place to film from. Right, I'm going to do more for the village. So as I was saying from the roadside, yeah, this pass is like 6 km, 6%. So it'll be a good steady effort, but part of why I want to do it is it gets steepest at the top. So that should be good. Like the final 500 meters is 10% or so. So it's going to be the sort of climb I always say I'm very, very bad at, but that makes it good practice. And good practice for what I want to do, which is kind of steady, consistent power output that ramps up at the end. It's also beautiful, and it's also probably the last day of summer. I need to not be too late because thunderstorms forecast at 2. So I best get on with it, and this is going to be like a 200 and something K ride, so it's going to be tough. On the way here down Church Hill, I hit a pothole, and I really thought it was going to be curtains, really, because I was on a minus 20% bit of road, and this pothole was like, you know, the sort of thing that your entire wheel goes into. Thought my wheel was going to buckle. I thought I was going to go over the handlebars. I managed to stay upright. Nothing broke, but my back wheel bearings seem knackered, which is annoying. Still rideable, but I'm going to have to get that serviced, which is irritating. Right, I'll stop faffing and get on with it. So we're back in with a good old-fashioned hill climb video. This is a Llangynog climb, or I'm going to call it the Berwyn Pass. It has an actual name for the road that no one uses that I'll tell you later. I call it the Berwyn Pass because it's the pass over the Berwyn Mountains, which are some highland that's not in any national park in Snowdonia or the other national parks of Wales. But they're still beautiful. They're still high mountains. You know, they're like 800 to 900 meters, a lot of them. So it is mountains, and this is the gateway to Bala, to Snowdonia. Given the length of the road, I've just put it on 1.5 speed the whole way, so don't think, wow, looks like Nick's going really fast. I have just sped up the footage a little bit, because beautiful though it is, it's not like, oh, there's so much stuff, you're going to miss it if I speed it up. So straight out of the village is one of the steepest bits of this climb, and I was really trying to rein myself in. I did a little bit out the saddle just to get going, and then I thought, right, sit down. And I quite often, as soon as it goes uphill, I'm sitting, I'm grinding, I'll go to 350 watts. And that isn't sustainable for me for the duration of this climb. As I don't think I said actually in the beginning, I did Llangynog on the way here, if you remember that like absurdly steep hill I've shown on this channel before, and somehow I got a PB up it. I did 350 watts for 10 minutes, or I just cracked the sub 10, I think 9:59, which for me is pretty good. I was chuffed with that result, but then I was worried, like, maybe I shouldn't have done that when this hill was the focus today. So anyway, I was really focusing on sitting down and pushing up, and as I say, this hill is, 5.5% average for 6 kilometers. You go up 325 meters of elevation or something. It's a big hill for British standards. Not the biggest, but that is a big climb. A very steady climb, and I was trying to treat it with the respect it deserved. I'm really, trying to train myself to stop blowing up halfway up hills, and to get out of the mindset of expecting myself to blow up halfway up hills. So this is a slow and steady wins the race jobby, even if that's not necessarily the fastest way to climb this climb. It probably is the fastest way to climb this climb, actually, so that doesn't matter. Anyway, the start of this climb is a little bit dull in the village.
the road's not steep enough for you to see anything particularly exciting. Most of the good views are behind you, as happens so often on climbs, because what's ahead of you is just a little bit more of the moorland you're climbing up, or a little bit more of the mountain you're already climbing up. You can't see very far, and inherently the fun bits are happening behind you as you're getting more and more elevation and seeing the view. But what this pass does have going for it is that to the left is kind of the source of the River Tanat, and the Tanat Valley is what I'd cycled through to get here. It's really beautiful. And to be honest, the Berwyn range, I suspect if you asked people to name hills and mountains in Wales, they'd know Snowdonia, they'd know, Llangynog, they'd know the Clwyds. I don't think many people know the Berwyns unless you're maybe from Shropshire or North East Wales. But as I say, they're high mountains. They reminded me a lot, like in geography, of the valleys in South Wales. Really beautiful, but incredibly desolate. There's really not much in the way of civilization. Civilization's the wrong word there. That's very dismissive of the villages, but you know what I mean. There's not urbanization. So, back to the climb. It was around here, as I'm starting to gain elevation, you're going through the tree line. Probably at this point, probably just over a quarter of the way in, that my legs started to hurt. That's, you always hit that point where the initial fatigue sets in, or the initial lactate builds up. I normally hit that point way too early, and a quarter of the way in I'm already thinking, this was pretty stupid. There's a lot left to go, and admittedly my power's not been massive, but I know that there's a lot left to go, so that's concerning. So I just sort of had a word with myself, and I thought, if the numbers drop a little bit, so be it. I would have liked to average 330 watts up here. I would have liked to consistently do 330 watts. That's a little bit down on the power I'd hoped to do for this duration, but with the ride here in my legs, I was almost 100 km deep over some pretty nasty terrain. And with the fact that I'd done a Zwift race the day before with some top Zwifters, if you know Zwifters, with Piglet and Greg Morgan on a team with me, and of course Kyle and Ben as well. So it was a real tough race. I came third, so I was very happy with that, but it was a little more fatigue in my legs than I'd hoped. So I kept thinking, what I don't want to do is what I often do mentally. I start seeing that pushing over 300 watts is hard, and I think, you're shit, Nick. Why do you think you could do this? You're always going to be shit. There's no point even trying. And I'll just sit up and I'll spin 250 watts and I'll go, well, I'm rubbish, so be it. And I thought, right, don't get into that cycle of thinking that. If I'm doing 300 watts, I'm doing 300 watts. I'll get back into more. And although this looks like a relatively smooth gradient, it does undulate just a little bit. It gets up to 10 or even a little bit more in places, and then a lot of it's 2 or 3% as well. So every so often, if I needed to, I treated myself to a little time out the saddle. Normally, I prefer climbing out the saddle, but when I'm doing over, 15 or 20 kilometers an hour, I kind of think, I don't do enough more power for it to be justified. When you watch someone like Andrew Feather, he does so much more power out the saddle that it compensates for any aero losses. I don't. I'll do like 3 watts more. It'll feel slightly more comfortable, but it's better to stay low. But when it got a bit steeper, I treated myself anyway. In my head, I was thinking about the times I've descended this climb, which is only twice. But it's an absolutely fantastic descent. Really fun. Very safe to go very fast. And I knew that there was a point where you kind of enter the tree line. You start at the top in desolate moorland, you fly down, and you enter a tree line. And I remember there being a grid. So to me, that was kind of a divider. And when I got to this grid, as I go over it, I suddenly thought, well, that's something. Actually, although a quarter of the way in, my brain was giving up, I'm now over halfway, and I've kept those powers rolling. Yeah, I am. You see, I'm dropping down. There's sometimes a 2 in my watts, which is not great to see. But now, I know I say this a lot, but the cameras aren't capturing the view to the left, this phenomenal valley, this steep-sided source of the Tanat. And I'm not going to say it's like Bolchagroes, because what could hold a candle to that majestic climb? But it's the same kind of principle that you're riding up a shelf along a valley and there's this really impressive gorge off to the side. This is much shallower. But this is only sort of 15k from Bolchagroes, so it is very similar scenery, very similar geography. And for me personally, that makes quite a difference. I expect for really top hill climbers, you're not even looking. It's just it's just numbers and keeping going. But I was really enjoying this, seeing this the other way, because as I say, I've only ever been down it. Although I will complain later about how busy the road is. It's not that bad, is it? It's really not that bad. And I think, in a way, putting this climb on my channel will look a lot more approachable to a lot of people who watch it than many of the others I do. It's never stupidly steep. It's not a dodgy surface that you have to have a bit of courage or stupidity to cycle up. It's just a road with a good surface, with a cracking view, with gradients of 3 to 10%, you know, nothing that will trouble anyone. But it really feels like getting up into the mountains. It's far enough from my house that it feels like an event to come here. It's not like I have a bit of contempt for like the steps or the green or Sunspot, which I've not even shown you. These days, when people say, "Oh, that's my favourite climb," I think, why? They're all boring. But that is just familiarity breeding contempt, right? This feels like an event to get out to, and I love it. So at this point, I really started to think, I think I can see the top. I really do think I can kind of see where it's going to end. And I'd looked at the profile I showed you at the start of this video, and it looked like the final 500 meters were the steepest. That never materialized. Someone's like barometer or altimeter on their head unit has not been keeping up with the grade, and suddenly at the end has gone, oh shit, they're higher than I thought, and compensated by saying it's steeper. It's not. Starts steep. Most of this is like 4 or 5% all the way to the end now. But that's great, because it means you start to think, well, I'm going to get up speed for a strong finish. I want to do a Andrew Feather at Nationals last year. I want to fly through to the end. But also, I was trying to keep in mind that I didn't want to empty the tank too early and then have a soggy little whimper over the line. So, unfortunately, I didn't have this segment on my head unit. It just hadn't synced in time, so I didn't really know where the finish was apart from memory. And I remember that there's a road sign that says Powys when you come the other way, the county of Wales we're in. So I thought, right, once I can see where I know that lay-by and road sign are, that's when I start going fully in to the end. And just over this crest here, then I could see it. So, as I do my soggy little strong finish, I'll tell you that I'm 28th of all time, just sub 17 minutes, which is miles off Kirk Vickers' time up there, or Giles, or whoever. But I'm really happy with my power profile, you know, for me, for being a bang average cyclist, holding that steady power, and then you can see there's just a little bit of a ramp up for the last minute or two. And then I stopped pedaling a little bit too early. If I'd had the Strava segment, that would have been okay. But still, good that. What did you make of that? I'm knackered. I'll go back and have a look at the view in a sec, but I'm not like buzzing, but happy with my strong finish. Happy that I stuck at it. Power was a bit low. Fucking hate roads like this. You look at it and you think the surface is good, but it's horrible to ride. Smooth for cars. And then that means there's loads of them. None of them are too badly behaved, but... Right, let's go back and look at the view. Alas, it wasn't to be, and there were no great points to take a photo of the view back down the valley, but it is spectacular, and I hope this like full screen rear view footage back from the climb gives you a bit of a feel. All I can say is, come and ride it for yourself. It's really gone up there quite quickly as one of my favourite roads in North Wales. I know I say that about a lot of places, but it's really impressive, that side. So I'm just going to show you the descent down to Bala, because both sides are nice climbs, and I did obviously do this descent. If you were to climb the other side, you don't do as much elevation because the Strava segment starts higher up, because the Bala to the foot of it is a bit bobbly for a while. So on this ride, I mentioned that I nearly broke my bike coming down Church Hill. There was one of those potholes, you know, that's so deep that you get down to sand beneath the road. I mean, like, I don't know how my bike's okay. I hope everything's okay. But I got away with it. Here's the whole ride I did, quite a long one, just to get to do this lovely segment. If you happen to see what went on there, I did not go through a red light. I just cleverly video edited it to make it look like I didn't stop. I realised that looked bad afterwards. And I wanted to show you this descent and just tell you a little bit more about the ride I did, because after Bala, I went along the River Dee for a while, and then up Llangynog, which is a lovely little climb that I've not shown on this channel. It was always my plan to go that way, but then I was really self-conscious because if you didn't see the day before, Ali Gardner, I hope I'm saying that right by the way, GCN keep changing the way they pronounce her name, who knows, did drive up to this area of Wales, the sort of area I tend to ride in, and just come and take QOMs on every official Welsh climb that didn't have QOMs on. It was really something to behold, but Llangynog was the last one she did with a phenomenal time, which I was nowhere near touching today. So I was pretty self-conscious of that as I was going up there. And yeah, after that, I was sort of trying to keep the power down just to get home before the thunderstorms. As I said, my bike just felt like it was grinding. I still haven't got a chance to look at what it is. I don't know if it's the wheel bearings or my bottom bracket, to be honest, but it sounded horrible. So as you descend this side, it's a little more pine forestry plantation and stuff. But this side is even more varied in gradient. So it makes for quite a nice descent, and something I was chatting about with Piglet recently is he said, I sort of don't realise how lucky I am to have a descent that's more than a minute long, because in most of England there's really not that many descents that are particularly long to get used to descending, handling your bike through a descent, and I'm by no means a particularly strong descender. But he's right, it is a privilege to have opportunities like this to just tear it for like 5 or 10 minutes down into Bala, to just be doing 50 kph and taking bends in the road, getting used to your positioning, and this is a lovely place to practice stuff like that. This road's got bends without ever being dangerous, and just at the bottom here, you get a double hairpin. What's nice about the positioning of this double hairpin is you're so close to the bottom of the climb that if you want to just sit up and go, do you know what, I've had my fun, let's take these really cautiously, you don't feel under any pressure like you would if there's hairpins all the way down. But also if you think, I've got the feel for the descent now, I'm going to do this double hairpin as fast as I can, you can do that too. And the drawback is, this is the way from like the Midlands of England into Wales and vice versa, so sorry to be like offensive to my compatriots, but English people are terrible at driving Welsh roads, and I suspect that car that was just in my lane around that hairpin was an English tourist going home. Always got to be cautious of that. Anyway, that was Milltir Cerrig. I never told you the name of it. The official road, Milltir Cerrig, it means Mile of Stones. That's the name of this pass. Llangynog Hill, or the Berwyn Pass. I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. See you in the next video.